Welcome to today's 30-minute Healthy Hips yoga class. This is a great way to invite a loving compassion and fluidity into a region of the body that really affords us the capacity to carry out our daily tasks with ease. When you're ready, we'll get started in a seated position, choosing any variation that's comfortable for you. You might like to join me in Vajrasana, diamond pose. Inner thighs and knees are touching and the sits bones are resting atop of the heels. Offer yourself a moment to arrive in the present, letting go of whatever was happening before this class, detaching from anything that might be happening afterwards, and just accepting this moment as it is. You might like to place one palm on the belly, the other on the heart space, and tune in to the manifestation of the breath. Simply allowing the breath to flow naturally. No need to control anything. Accepting yourself as you are. Simply observing if there are any sensations, any emotions, feelings, or thoughts that are coming to the surface. Recognize their presence and peacefully let them go. Reminding yourself that the breath is always here for you. And if ever the mind begins to wander, simply guiding yourself to this space with the inflow and outflow of air. You might like to keep the eyes closed or gently blink them open as we come into a seated cat-cow, placing the palms on the knees. Inhale, scoop the chest forward, broaden across the heart space, gaze up. Exhale, curl and round, draw the chin to the chest, engage the core. And again, inhale. Exhale. A few more times, honoring your rhythm, your cadence in this very moment. Slowly beginning to release, and we'll transition onto all fours, coming into a tabletop position, Balasana. The knees are in line with the hips are squared, wrists are in line with shoulders. Engaging the abdominals, drawing the navel to the spine, ribs are soft, finding length along the back of the neck. And we'll take a traditional cat and cow. Inhale, broadening across the heart space, gaze up. Exhale, push into the fingertips, the palms, curl and round. Using the tops of the feet, the shin, the knees for support. Really articulating each movement with the breath. And from here, joining the big toes together, sinking the hips back towards the heels, walking the fingertips out in front. Perhaps lowering the forehead onto the mat, coming into Child's Pose, Balasana. For a more active variation, you might like to tent up onto the fingertips, keeping the arms elevated. And seeing if you can create a bit of space between the tops of the shoulders and the ears. Breathe. From here, we'll set up for Downward Dog, coming into a tabletop position, tucking the toes under, walking the fingertips out in front a few inches, raising the hips, extending the legs, the arms, allowing the heart to melt forwards towards the earth. And if you're up on your toes, bending the knees, that's perfectly okay as well. Honor your practice. Perhaps finding a bit of fluidity, bending one knee, straightening the other, warming up the hips. And in your own time, finding stillness. Softening the muscles of the face. Inhale, ground down through the left leg, float the right leg up, three-legged dog, Svanasana, hips are squared. Externally rotate that right hip, raise the leg even higher, and we'll flex the right knee, drawing the right heel towards the glutes. Doing your best to keep the shoulders squared, core is engaged. Beginning to create some hip circles, moving the knee in one direction and rotating the knee in the opposite direction, really lubricating the ball and socket. Inhale, re-extend the leg, three-legged dog, square off the hips, guide the knee forwards towards the outer edge of that right tricep. And with control, guide the right foot down on the outer edge of that right hand as we come into lizard posture. Affording yourself a moment to find a variation of the posture that works for you. Perhaps shifting the hips forwards and backwards slightly. And doing your best to keep that back leg extended, staying high on the ball of that foot, or lowering the knee down if that's in your practice. Hips are squared. You might like to stay up on the palms or lower down onto the forearms. Engaging that core. For a deeper variation, rolling onto the blade edge, the lateral edge of that right foot, allowing the knee to splay out to the side. Noticing what's going on in the outer hips, the legs, the back of the neck, the core. Simply becoming aware. No judgment. Wherever you were, we'll guide ourselves up onto our palms, heel toeing the right foot across to the left palm as we come into Pigeon Pose, Kapotasana. Again, doing your best to square the hips. You might like to keep the back toes of the left leg tucked or pointed. Staying upright for a few breaths, broadening across the heart space. Letting go of any stored emotions. And if it's in your practice, we'll begin to hinge forwards from the hips, guiding the forearms down onto the mat. Really finding length along the back of the body. Breathe. Maybe folding down all the way, creating a pillow with your palms for the forehead. We'll be here for about the next 10 breaths. Allow yourself to get comfortable. Finding any props, accessories, if those are helpful. Taking one more mindful breath in Pigeon Pose. And taking as much space and time as you like, we'll use our palms to guide ourselves upright. Transitioning your weight onto your right hip, we'll swing our left leg around in front and we'll come into a double pigeon or fire log pose. The left shin is going to be parallel with the short edge of the mat, if you're facing the short edge, and then placing the right shin on top of the left. Both feet are flexed, maybe hinging forwards onto the forearms or lowering down completely. You might observe a tremendous stretch in the outer glutes on the right hand side, particularly the piriformis. Just breathing into any sensation, recognizing that this is a practice, it's a journey, and each day brings with it new opportunities, new challenges. One more breath, guiding yourself upright to a seated position. Crossing the legs will come up into tabletop as a transition and sink back into child's pose again. Allowing yourself to surrender to this pose, guiding your awareness to the breath. Taking about 5 breaths in this posture. Mindfully guiding yourself upright into tabletop. And we'll get ready to go on the other side, engaging the core, walking the fingertips out in front, tucking the toes under, shifting the hips up and back, coming into downward dog. Finding length along the back of the neck, slight tuck of the chin. Biceps are rolled forwards, triceps are rolled back. Grounding down through the index and the thumb to really help stabilize you in this position. Breathe. Grounding down through the right leg. Inhale, float the left leg up, keeping the hips squared. Finding a lovely stretch along the back of the right leg, using the glutes of that left leg to help lift and drive that leg up. We'll externally rotate the hip, flex the knee, drawing the left heel towards the glutes, squaring off the shoulders. And either finding stillness here, or you might like to create those gentle hip and knee circles, creating some imaginary shapes. Getting creative, finding comfort, and if you are moving in one direction, begin to swap the direction of your shapes. Inhale, re-extend the leg, square off the hips, engage the core, come into a tiger curl as we guide that left knee towards the outer edge of the left arm, lowering the left foot down, coming into lizard pose. Finding your adjustments. Remembering that you always have the option to lower the back knee, the right knee. Listen to what your body needs today. If you're up on the palms, you might like to lower down onto the forearms. Perhaps externally rotating that left hip. Noticing what's going on in the body. Where are you feeling sensation? And asking yourself, can I soften? Can I release? Can I find peace? And in your own time, working your way back onto your palms, and we'll come into Pigeon Pose. Heel toeing the left foot over to the left palm. Taking a moment to square off the hips, tucking the toes if that feels good for you. Keeping that front foot flexed so that we're protecting the knee joint. Staying upright for a few breaths. Finding length through the vertebral column, through the crown of the head. Maybe lowering down. And we'll be here for the next few moments, so allow yourself to find ease, to find comfort. A really great tool to arrive in the present moment and to release tension is to mindfully invite a soft smile onto the lips. The act of doing so really helps to release any negativity, any tension that might have been arising, stagnating. I invite you to test it out now or at any stage throughout the course of your day, life in general. Breathe. Beginning to invite some movement into the body. Guide ourselves upright, shifting your weight onto the left hip as we guide our right leg forward, coming into fire log pose on the other side. This time the right shin is in contact with the mat and the left shin is on top of the right, keeping the feet flexed, maybe staying upright or hinging forwards. Breathe. Beginning to work your way upright to a seated position, we'll come into a kneeling posture, diamond pose, thunderbolt pose, allowing the sits bones to rest atop of the heels. Place the palms in the lap, roll the shoulders back. Take a moment to find your breath. Land in this moment. And either staying here, or you might like to join us in camel pose, Vajrasana, coming up into a kneeling position. Knees are in line with hips. The toes are tracking backwards, or you might like to keep them tucked to protect your knees. Hips are squared to the front of the mat, placing the palms on the lower back, fingertips facing towards the earth. We'll broaden across the heart space, gaze up, feeling as though you're drawing the elbows towards one another, engaging the core. Exhale, return upright. We'll go again, finding this baby camel variation. Shifting the hips forward as we send the head and the heart back. Returning to center, and you can carry on with this variation or join us in a full camel. Arching back through the thoracic region of the spine, and eventually reaching for the heels with the fingertips, the palms. If it's in your practice, maybe allowing the neck to rest back completely. Really lifting up through the pelvis, the heart space. We're not collapsing into the lower back. If you notice that you're really contracting the glutes, that might be an indication that you've gone too far. And when you're ready, we will return to diamond pose. Placing the palms in the lap, finding a neutral spine. Guiding your breath to the lower back, to the mid back. Allowing the breath to soften. From here, we will come into hero pose, perhaps scooting forwards on the mat slightly. Knees are together. We're going to scoop out the fleshy part of the calves, allowing the glutes to rest between the feet. The toes are pointed towards the back of the mat. If this is not comfortable for you, you might like to prop yourself up on a block or have your knees spread apart so that they're more in line with your hips. It's entirely up to you. If this causes any pain around the knee joints, I invite you to stop the pose and rest in diamond pose. Otherwise, you might like to tent up onto the fingertips behind you, gaze up, broaden across the heart space. Find length through the vertebral column. If you'd like to take it a little further, fingertips face towards the toes, lowering down onto the forearms, elbows are underneath shoulders, broaden across the heart. Maybe extend the gaze backwards. For another variation, if you'd like to take it a little further, you might like to use your feet for support as you guide your upper back down onto the mat. Extend the arms overhead, interlace opposite fingers around opposite elbows. Finding ease. If you notice your breath shortening at all, seeing if you can mindfully draw it out, mindfully guide your presence to the regions where you're feeling sensation. About 3 more gradual breaths in this posture. With control, coming out the same way you came in, using the feet for support, then the forearms, before you prop yourself up onto the fingertips, returning upright to a seated position, affording yourself a moment here with a neutral spine. From here, we will cross the legs, come onto the sits bones, placing the palms down under the thighs. Begin to roll down one vertebra at a time, engaging the core, coming down onto the back, drawing the knees to the chest. Perhaps creating some circles with the knees. Finding a gentle massage for the lower back. And we'll come into Waterfall Pose, Viparita Karani. So legs are extended skywards, the knees, the ankles are in line with the hips, allowing the lower back to compress into the mat, core is engaged, arms are extended the length of the body, grounding down through the palms, maybe closing the eyes. If you would like a more passive variation of this posture, you can always perform this exercise next to a wall or placing a block or two or a bolster underneath the sacral region of your spine. 2 more breaths here. Gently bending the knees, and we'll rock up into a seated position, coming onto hands and knees as we set up for our final relaxation, child's pose. Big toes are together, hips are sinking back towards the heels, knees are spread wide. Allowing the belly, the chest, the heart to melt towards Mother Earth. Seeing if you can calm down the breath. Invite an open appreciation into your current positioning. Perhaps offering yourself a moment of gratitude. Celebrating your capacity to move the body, to find stillness. I invite you to take this clarity, this peaceful nature with you throughout your interactions and your experiences. You're welcome to pause the video here and stay here for as long as you like. Thank you all so much for today. Namaste.